Welcome back to the show, everybody. Hey, we got a really fun one coming on here. Claims have been made throughout world history about upcoming cataclysmic events that are going to alter the world. Where most of these predictions differ is whether or not we survive as a species, or if as a world we know it is just going to change completely. So is a religious occurrence, destruction of the earth, visitation from an alien race, or is it a tiny microscopic invader that wipes out humanity? In other words, apocalypse when? And that is right now. Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is white.
Then live to send the innocent to their death? Is this justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
All right, and we got here Austin. I think he's still at work, so he's not going to be on here. Carlito is still at work, so he's not going to be on here. Chris is sounding robotic, so I'm not sure what's going on with him. I don't know if everybody heard that. All of a sudden, it was like the deep monster voice. So, hey, Chris, why don't you drop out and come back in? See if that fixes that. It's kind of the same thing. So let's bring on Tom and Bryan. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good. Or we the people are pissed.
We're going to go with. I said right now I tossed around the idea. I got to come up with a nickname for you guys, so I went with Agents of Chaos. But then Bryan threw out there the Golden Corral Boys. Since Carlito's usually showing pictures of him being at the buffet. And I was going to ask you. It's like I know you said, why the angry face, sir? Why the angry face?
Hey, I'm back.
On the emoji that you did for the show, you put an angry face. That's what I was going to give you a hard time. Yeah, you did. That's what I was like, what? He's on the show and he hates it. What's going on here?
I got like that Homer Simpson fat fingers. I need like a dialing one. I didn't know that. Honestly, I thought I put a happy face in them. Sorry.
Oh no, I just thought angry face. I'm like, wow, that didn't take long.
No.
We're just getting right into the apocalypse. Yeah, Chris, when you first came in, man, it was just like, and I'm like, yeah, that's not going to last. Yeah. I kicked the producer out of the room for a second. I told him, got to go get something to drink. I go, we're not going to have to listen to the hacking, the entire show. Poor thing.
Just go to Mom. She'll take care of you.
Yeah, exactly. So welcome everybody to the show. We're just going to get pretty much right into it. I've introduced the guys many times, but I have it down pat. Bryan and Bowden, host of Beyond the Realm and Inside the Goblin Universe. He's been on radio, many TV programs, Bronxville Paranormal Society, North American Dogman Project, New York chapter, along with New York State UFO Project. How did I do that time?
Good.
All right. Tom, North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project. He also has a YouTube channel, Tom Kardos 1, and that where he can talk about all different topics that's in that North Carolina cryptid and paranormal spectrum, including about lizard people, at which point his internet gets cut. And then Carlito, he's not here. It's what happened? I just said it. Look, he froze.
Oh my God!
Is that great? Is that crazy? Awesome. How about that? Yeah, right there in the video, you froze right at that point. I'm like, see,
they're watching me. I'm being watched. They live is real life stuff. So be careful.
Your next door neighbors.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies. I love that one.
Obey.
Oh yeah, that was. Yeah, I mean, if that doesn't just talk about like how things are, where it's like that something like this, all the messages behind just stuff, and it just puts all this glass, everything's black and white. Obey, procreate, do as you're told.
Yeah, there's a whole cult classic like listening to that movie, like just all like kind of like backdrop and just underlying phrases that are kind of like going with society. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And this one
Jane.
I'm just gonna kind of just throw this out there for everybody. I know you're supposed to say spoiler alert, but none of these things have come true that we're going to talk about tonight.
None of them.
Yet.
None of these have come true. So that's a spoiler alert. These are apocalyptic predictions. Nothing has come true to this point, or else we would be So spoiler. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry to break it out there. So welcome, like I said, to everybody.
Actually, depending on what your list is, there may be one that has come true. But continue on. We'll go through. I mean, I'm sure all of us kind of took different approaches. I mean, I went to it. I kind of started from the beginning. I went back to where one of the first known apocalyptic predictions was done, and that was about 2800 BC on an Assyrian clay tablet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That one was,
you went old school.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was one of the ones that depicted, we'll so that aside whether or not you thought he translated them wrong, where the Epic of Gilgamesh went there, but that was the one that it roughly translated to: our earth is degenerate in these later days. There are signs that the world is speedily coming to an end. Bribery and corruption are common. Children no longer obey their parents. Every man wants to write a book, and the end of the world is evidently approaching.
Well, that's pretty much, you just said the last 5 years of everybody's life.
Yeah. That's why it was kind of, especially that, just to get those last parts, you're like, wow, that sounds like today. And that's kind of went through there. And that's, as we go through it, like I said, I kind of started with there. I mean, it's the Coptic Orthodox Church. They also celebrate the night of Great Friday, which, like I said, Good Friday for everybody for Easter, but they call it the night of the apocalypse. And that's due to that night they read the entire holy book of Revelation, and they celebrate the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who went into the pit of Hades to restore all those who died in the hopes of resurrecting to paradise. Wow. And so a lot of these, they harken back to these ones, and a lot of stuff, like a lot of religious predictions are, they come through, with this apocalyptic thing. And it's one that I've noticed. You can almost put it in categories. There's like there's the religious base, there's the astrological, and then there's like the scientific base, where you have more kind of like, we can say the vid, it's like you've got more like they're talking about just, we're going to have some superbug that's going to get out and wipe us out. You've got those. They kind of break into those topics.
Before we go too much
further, so
further,
anybody just jump in, like I said, when you get it too.
Before we go too much further, does anybody know where the word apocalypse came from?
No, not really.
It is a Greek term referring to the end of time. I mean, so we all know what the word apocalypse means, but I didn't know it was Greek until I started doing my research. And I'm like, oh, it's a Greek word.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, they had nothing but time, so they can come up with crap all the time.
Yeah. That was, and that's the thing. I mean, like one of the, as I was just, there's not going to be enough time to go through them all. So I was like hit or miss. I mean, I jumped forward to 482. AD is when, and this one was, there was a bishop, which the area who's in is now modern day Portugal. Hydatus, I think it's Hydatius or Hydatius is his name. His prediction was based on the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas. And I put on my report, on my notes here, Kardos, so Gnostic Book of Gospel of Thomas, Kardos. Hydatus predicted the return of Jesus on May 27th, 482, and he died in 469. So he never saw his prediction, but his was like that of the time. It's just, Jesus is going to come back.
pretty much everybody, it seems like every generation has this. We're in that time. Now is the time. God's coming back. You're seeing it. This is the end times. Every generation has had those. And that's, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, and like, every generation has had those. And if you just watch there's a bunch of a good apocalyptic type of TV that comes out every once in a while when something happens. They go right to the quatrains, with Nostradamus or Edgar Casey. They don't go that far back. And it's kind of hard because if anybody, older than a certain century would look at what we have here and just be either scared or they couldn't make anything of it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. I mean, what's this, people talking to their hands, they wouldn't understand it. So, so I like to look, when I think of apocalypse, one, Revelations is the first one I go with, that type of stuff. Yeah. And then I listen to, well, not that I follow, but I listen to all the people that have come after that point with like an Edgar Casey, a Nostradamus. There are a couple of ministers that are out there. There's a bunch of everybody. It's a minister, or what do they call those people? There's other names for them. There's a couple of them that are like and Jesus is coming, and they'll use certain events, kind of like a fake prophet.
False Messiah.
Yeah,
TV evangelist. I'm sorry, too soon.
Yeah, no. One of my favorites is actually that I just always love to watch him, but he's now being linked as part of he's more demonic than he is preacher. Was Joel Osteen?
Oh yeah.
There's something about that guy. Yeah, well, there's something about him. The way he talks, he only mentions Jesus at the end. He never puts Jesus in the whole thing. Another great guy to listen to if you want on a preaching end is Creefold Dollar. He's fantastic. He's totally different perspective. But these are great though, because what they're saying, what you just hit on the last one is pretty accurate. Maybe they did have the foresight to see what the hell was happening now.
Yeah, some of them. I mean, they seem to really. They hit on something. That's one of those. Is it something that's just because it's a cyclical thing? That kind of. That's one of those things where, or is it just broad enough to where you can find little things like a lot of Nostradamus thing. You can plug a lot of Nostradamus predictions into where you're at. I mean, it's like, it's because he had to be vague to avoid being persecuted.
I mean,
at his time, he couldn't just come out and say these things. So you had to write it in the poetic, just kind of to spread it out. He couldn't do that, but it was one of those. It was just enough to where you're like, man, that sounds just like what's going on right now. It's like he must be talking about World War II, and it's like, I go, is there a chance? I mean, it's close.
That's really. I mean,
so you have these things. It's really close. Yeah, it's really close. But there's also, do I believe that he predicted the Twin Towers coming down? No. I don't know. I don't know. I think it was just one of those. It sounds right.
Fishing. I mean, people say history repeats itself. So now, if I was to be an apocalyptic writer or something, I could say, well, there's going to be a virus that's going to come because they had scarlet fever and other things.
Right.
So I mean, it would be kind of easy to write something and store it away in a bottle, and then somebody finds it from now and like, oh, is this the apocalypse? Because he wrote they would be this, and after some of the media's gone, a new virus comes up 50 years, 100 years after we're dead, and they'd be like, well, they had a thing called COVID, now they have this and this. It's like maybe you can predict into the future by just using history repeating itself.
What I loved about the last one that you talked about, Craig, was it was fairly specific. Everyone's going to write a book.
Yeah, every man wants to write a book, and the end of the world is evidently approaching.
Well, could we mistake blogs for books if you didn't know what a blog was?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Could we mistake, like everybody having some kind of television program because of social media like YouTube, TikTok, whatever it is, some of which is good, bad. But you're right also, Chris, about history repeating itself. I mean, it wasn't only a few years ago that they cheated in an election with a spike, and they did it again just the other day. So, history is repeating itself. But
so now if we say it will get really bad and there could be another whatever happened at the Capitol, then I mean we wouldn't be far off, because the people who, like my children, they might not remember that. And then when they read it in their 60s and 70s, it's like, holy snap, the world's coming to an end because I seen this or I see this, and it wouldn't be pretty far-fetched, in my opinion.
Yeah, kind of one of the next ones, like down the list too, that kind of falls on that line, is in 776, a monk known as Beatus of, I think it's Liabiana. I just say I'm terrible with these things. Wrote a treatise, which, for anybody that doesn't know what that is, it's a written work dealing formally and systematically with the subject. His work was one of the earliest, if not the first, to reference the beast in regards to a military, just an empire. So at his time, the Roman Empire had just been previously viewed as the beast, with Rome being Babylon. And so now, during his time, he's in the Iberian Peninsula, and which is today's modern day Spain, Portugal, and parts of the southwestern France and Gibraltar. This was just recently taken over by Arab and Berber invaders. And so now this became that caliphate. And so now the beast is this caliphate, and I think it's Cordoba was the name of the place, and that has become Babylon. And so now this is that where you see a lot of these terms where it comes into where you'll have, I didn't really go too much into this one, but as it comes up, the next one we get in, it'll talk about, this is where you start getting like the numbers like 666, the number of the beast, and you start getting into these things. And that's where, so now you've got Babylon, you've got the caliphate coming in. Well, now you've got Pope Innocent III, who uses apocalyptic theology. Right. And so he starts the Fifth Crusade against the Ayyubid Empire, which is caliphate, and he accuses the Islam rise as being a reign of the Antichrist. And so we must stop the Antichrist. And because of this, because this is going to bring in the second coming. And so in 1213, he proclaims in writing that, and this is, I shortened it, so it's paraphrased, a son of perdition has arisen, the false prophet Muhammad. The end of this beast is approaching, whose number, according to the revelation of St. John, will end in 666 years, of which 600 have already passed. Mm-hmm. So this date was 1284. So like I said, we're right about the time of the Templars. So I said, This is all, so this is all coming on. And so 7 years later, on this one, the Crusader kingdom falls with the sacking of Acre. And this is now where you really have the religious thing, calling out Antichrist, they're calling out the beast, they're calling out Babylon. And you start to see some of these, and it really seems like from there is when it really takes off. And it's just, you can go through, like I said, I could find hundreds of these things now where you've got ministers and stuff now, I mean, who hasn't heard the modern ones, which we'll get into. I'm sure you guys have got a lot of those, of the modern ones of this is the Antichrist. This is the one, we've got to stop this one, the number. And so, what do you guys have from there? Because I'm gonna save another one. I got a really cool one about a count who gets stoned.
But in 1901, the Catholic Apostolic Church, they were founded in 1831. They said it would be like 1901 when the end of time was, and the last member died in 1901. So it never came when they said it was going to come either.
Was that the Millerites?
Yeah.
Yep, those are. I hadn't even heard about those. And it was Mark Eddy mentioned that, and I looked up those, and it was just funny that you brought that up. I was like, because that was in my mind too. I'm like, the Millerites. I'm like, oh my God, it's just, King is over here, the ancients knew, and that's kind of what we're kind of the little thing is too is you have the certain people where they have a gift. They're seeing something right here, and it's just one of those. I don't know if I found too many people who were dead on. I mean, I guess maybe her name. God, the name is just failing me right now. I just had it on top of my tongue. I'll look it up real quick. But it was the lady where her third prediction is sealed in the Vatican.
Oh, you're talking about the Fatima woman?
Yeah,
the nun,
yeah.
The sister. Oh, geez, Louise.
That her prediction is so spot on that the third one is sealed, so that way nobody can see it, because apparently the rumor is it's so accurate that it will cause panic.
Yeah, there was someone. She came up recently, and they said that they released the third prediction, but some people are saying it's not even close to what she actually stated, because she supposedly gets this from the Virgin Mary, which, I mean, is a pretty good source if you want to think about it. So what you're saying is milk prices. Okay, good. But here's the problem with all these things. If you're not a God-fearing person, no matter if it's on the Jewish or Judeo-Christian side, whatever, or the Muslim, then you get into the other Buddha, Hindu, whatever it is. If you're not really God-fearing, there's no rhyme or reason why the world would end. It's just not going to happen. So you have to get into a religious end of it, and I've always went with the Old Testament or something closer to Sumerian, because that's where pretty much religion supposedly comes from. So the Old Testament is the closest. The New Testament, it's really interesting how they took these little verses in these books and they said, oh, no, we're not going to put the Book of Mary in there. Nope. Get that out of here. They were very selective about what's going on.
Heroin, yeah. I'm not sure if that's because that was the same time, I think, with Bush too, where they called the new the president's vehicle the Beast. I don't know if that has anything to do with the 666 apocalypse. I mean, but it is kind of a weird coincidence. I'm not, but who knows? I mean, it could be based off that. That part I don't know.
Well,
but it's
Kennedy, when we know the open face limousine. That's why they started making them bulletproof after Kennedy's assassination. But I was going to say, on my end, Matthew 24 talks about a good amount. Jesus says, watch out. Many will come in my name, false messiah. There'll be rumors of wars. Don't be alarmed. The end is still to come. Nations will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, famines, earthquakes. You all know the rest of that, all the verses of that Matthew 24. But I mean, it's funny how it's in the Bible, and it's like all that stuff is kind of like, it might have happened through the ages, but it's really close to, spot what he's talking about right now. Like, we're like living in the end times period of, we're on what, DEFCON 2 right now, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of what it is. It's like all these places. I mean, it's like you can see like a lot of these Nostradamus, like we were talking about the Nostradamus ones. I mean, they would fit in right now, just as they did in World War II.
Interpretation goes spot on. And like you were saying, Edgar Casey, I mean, he would go into like a trance state, almost like half asleep, half awake, and like some kind of comatose trance, and he would get these images in his mind, and then he'd kind of retell them when he came out of it, which was wild, and a lot of stuff was spot on.
I think that's because he tapped into the Akash record. Sorry,
yeah, that's what
I think he tapped into the Akash record, and that's where he was getting his abilities and talents to do so. But I defer to Chris at this point right now.
So if you're not religious, do you feel like, if some people are not religious, do you feel like maybe this is just like myths? Because like right now we haven't had a hurricane in November for like, it's a good time to talk about it. We haven't had a hurricane since 1985. So is this like saying that the world is really changing to go into an apocalyptic state? I mean, if you're not religious, what do you think of, how do you equate these things that's happening that we really have no explanation for if you're not religious? Because I noticed in the apocalyptics, most of these people have been preachers, You know, they've been part of other places like Rome. They've been like different religious groups. So, like you said, if you're not religious, you have no real reason to believe the world will be coming to an end. Correct?
I mean, there's no higher power or higher powers that are going to fight for control of the world. It is just what it is. But I mean, I make the statement that I moved to Florida and all of a sudden the weather came.
Yeah.
So you can blame me if you'd like. You know, but it does happen, and you're not taking consideration. And I mean to interrupt you.
No,
that
you're
every
good.
26,000 to 27,000 years, the Earth experiences an Earth cycle. And what happens is the poles shift, they change, ice caps melt, they go elsewhere. You know, every Earth changes, earthquakes, flooding, you name it happens because the entire planet is moving. It's not global warming. We're in an Earth cycle. We just happen to be in the tail ends of it. So it sucks for everybody. But the people that are smart know it's you can't stop it. It's like trying to put the sun out to stop skin cancer. It ain't gonna happen. You know, but you have other people that are using it to their advantage to scare the Nikes out of people. I'll be nice.
Oh no, that's what it is. I mean, that's kind of where he was asking. I go, that's where you could break it into those groups where you have the religious predictions, you have the astrological predictions, you have people that are using what you'd say the Gnostic, the secular, the heretical sciences to come up with predictions, and then you have the scientific ones where, you know, the predictions are if we don't do this, this, and this, curb carbon emissions, you know, the caps are going to melt, we're all going to drown.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, those are still classified as doomsday apocalyptic predictions.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually have this discussion with a lot of people offline and whatever. This is some of the things we look into. And someone I'm very good friends with who's also a cryptozoologist out of the UK, he has his checklist. So I always ask him because even though he married someone who was Jewish from Israel, he wasn't raised in that. So he gets the best of both worlds. So his checklist was number 1, and there's 9 of them. Okay, it's really not that long. Number 1, nation will rise against nation, World War I and II. That happened, correct? Yes. Number 2 is the reestablishment of Israel. Did that happen? Yes. That's a check mark. Mm-hmm. Number 3 is Jerusalem under Jewish control. That happened. Mm-hmm. It's a check mark. Here's where we get to the weird stuff. Invasion by the Northern Alliance, and that's where we are right now. And the Northern Alliance is Jordan, Syria, and Russia's mentioned in it. There's going to be an alliance north of Israel where these nations are going to gather together and invade Israel from the north. Let you in on a little secret that they're using Iranian missiles in the current conflict. Okay, and they're very, very, chatty with all the quote unquote enemies of Israel, which surround them, especially from the north. Number 5 is one world government, where we're trying to get to that. Not that I want that. Number 6 is 10 kingdoms of government. So we're going to get one world that's not going to work, and then we're going to break into 10 different kingdoms. That could be the Nasara type of stuff people talk about. Number 7 is rise of the Antichrist. Number 8 is the period of peace and false security. And number 9 is a 7-year covenant between Israel and the Antichrist. Here's the problem. So I've always questioned. I said, well, why does it have to be that way? Why can't it just happen? We're almost in a nuclear conflict right now because the idiots are not talking to each other over these different things. So, and his response is, because if it doesn't happen as God has, stated it within context of his documents, Old Testament, New Testament, then God is lying to you, and God can't lie to you. So that's where we are right now. And, it's a really, it's a strange thing, because if you really look at Revelation, you look at some of the things they're talking about, we're there. I mean, more so than ever.
Yeah.
We're really there.
it really does feel like you said. They get these ones, and you can see it's like, man, you're checking off all the boxes.
Yeah,
It's like we're here.
It's paralleled all the way. It's spot on to everything you could read on Revelation.
Oh, yeah.
Sadly, I think that was written about the Romans and Caesar. Caesar was considered the Antichrist, and he was numbered. Nero Caesar was 666, the beast. But it all takes to like modern day times. Just like you said, you just kind of quad train it and change it over to over ages. Every 80 years it seems like there's a war. It seems like every 80 years there's a war, and we're almost on the next 80 years of World War II. So,
well, here's the thing, right? So growing up, and I'm a very late 60s kid, right? Early 70s. So I'm a Gen Xer. And I've always noticed that we get into a certain point, we get a conflict, it goes, and then it stops, and then everything's great again. And then we get to another conflict, and then it goes and it stops. It's an ebb and flow. It's just like an EKG machine. In the last 20 plus years, since the beginning of the 2000s, tail end of 1990s into the early 2000s, mind you, when they started using colliders, big, it just keeps going like this. This keeps going up. The pressure just keeps going and building. Something's changed. It's dramatically noticeable. No one's, we're fighting and it's actually got worse. We're all fighting amongst each other. Skin color, sexual orientation, firearms, religion, whatever, money, there does not seem to be an end in sight. And everything about an apocalypse, it looks real right now. It's kind of scary because
it is.
We all have kids here that are young. Happy birthday to yours, Tom.
Yes.
Teenager
boy.
And I'll tell you the truth. I want the giant meteor to hit, and I want to be wiped out immediately with my kids because the fear of leaving them behind and having to struggle, that is really what bothers me.
That is a scary thought. Like I said, the other thing on top of that, with the government, I would say depicting on man or the government, we're controlling the weather, and this is causing your hurricane right now in November. They said it's never happened since 85. It's just a fluke freak storm.
Yep.
But when you have HARP and you're controlling the weather, you're controlling climate, this is kind of the result of it. All these crazy, wild storms.
Well, if you look at the beginning of it, you could almost, you could see how somebody that believes that HARP creates the weather. You could see how somebody could make that case, because if you looked at it, it started south of Puerto Rico, went straight up, and then it just hooked like a dead left.
You're talking about Ian, right?
No, right now, Nicole. It
right
went
now?
straight. It went up through Puerto Rico and started a curve, and then it just did this dead left and just is shooting straight over.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, there was a category 6, unheard of. Like, they're available. They don't necessarily happen. We're heading towards North Carolina. Literally, the problem in North Carolina where it was going to hit. Hi, Tom. I think between North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia to Delaware, you're talking about close. I think there was a dozen, if not 17, nuclear reactors there. It would have been Fukushima look like a Girl Scout party. Okay, and then this is the stupid things I do. I watch Earth changes, I watch anomalies, I watch earthquakes, the whole thing. Matter of fact, my phone rings a certain way. My girls go, earthquake. And they know. It's fun. But just before it was about to hit landfall, as a category 5 into 6, if you look at the weather map, there was an anomaly. And it's just a really thin line. It's super fast. And you would see it. If you went frame by frame, you'd see this thing go right down where the storm was. And it went from a 5-6 to a 1.
You don't say.
I don't say. Fast forward to just a couple of weeks ago, Ian.
Yep.
Ian cuts across, and it stalls over in the Gulf, right? It stalled, and it got really, really more powerful than it was supposed to. You look at that radar signature, you will see this little line that comes down. I'm telling you, that's been charged. And I will go find the radar signatures and I'll show you where the lines are. It's a quick anomaly, and then boom.
Well, Ian was weird altogether because it was hanging out up north by New York for like 3 days. It wouldn't dissipate. It was like stuck in New York. It's like, fuck
yeah, it's like you thought Sandy was bad. Take this. Boom.
Well, I think it was looking for me. I'm like, damn it! I told you he moved.
Yeah,
so it went down.
Yeah, it's too late now. We're too far north. Yeah, no. So get back to the list here because we were talking about the astrological ones. Getting that subject here, and this is kind of the same. Because perfect segue in the weather. 1499, German astronomer and mathematician Johannes Stoffler. He predicts that vast flood is going to engulf the world starting February 20th, 1524.
Oops.
And his calculations, which foretold of 20 planetary conjunctions, 16 of which would fall into water signs, is what led him to believe this is going to be a mass flood event. And so pamphlets were created over his predictions, over 100 different pamphlets. They were distributed all over Europe. So everybody in Europe knew about this. And so during this time, boat building just boomed. I mean, people were building boats. This nobleman, Count von Igelheim, and built a 3-story ark that he built on the river Rhine. And so it was sitting there. And so fast forward, we get into 1524, February 1st, over 20,000 people in the London area abandon their homes and head to the hills in preparation for these floods. This is just one of the things. So, and then we go over back here to Germany where this guy is. And so nothing's happening yet. This is a drought year anyway. So 1524 there's a drought going on in Europe. Well, February 20th, it starts to rain. And so people start to panic, and they're down here in this area. So a large crowd forms, and they start to riot. And during this process, hundreds of people are killed, and everybody's trying to get on to the Count's ark. Well, he's refusing to let him on there because he built this luxury ark for family and friends only.
Right.
And so they end up dragging him off of this thing and stoning him to death.
Well, rightfully so.
And it is so, and so, like I said, and once again, this is just a light rain. Nothing happens here. So now hundreds of people are dead. The Count's dead. He's been stoned to death over this prediction. And so this is one of those, it kind of segues a little bit. Hopefully you guys found some of these ones where the predictions get out of hand. I mean, we can get to the Hale-Bopp comet.
Oh yeah.
So you get to these things where, predictions get to the point to where people die. I mean, it's not just, hey guys, just be prepared. I think this is going to happen. And when it doesn't happen, well, shit, I guess I got to eat these 17 cans of mashed potatoes I got stored back here. Yeah. It's like, that's all we're eating is powdered eggs for the next few weeks. Cause it's going to go bad.
Kool-Aid.
Yeah. And so, those that you're fine with, I can handle, I've got a lifetime supply of these supplies sitting back behind me, Patriot Supply, it's not going to go bad for 10 years, you're okay. I go, but you have the ones where people end up getting stoned and killed over the things because people panic. And that's where some of these predictions, you can see how they're so realistic, and you get some people so worked up. And I think that's where a lot of, you can really see it like firsthand what happened in the last 2.5 years.
Wow.
Over the COVID thing. It's just, you can see the fear. You can see how easily people can become so afraid of something that they're willing to do whatever it takes to get that, to help alleviate that fear. It doesn't matter what it is. They will cut off family. They will cut off. It's like, if you're not part of the solution, I want nothing to do with you. You can see what people will do in the name of protecting themselves, to that small order. Now imagine if it was something more serious, whether it's zombies, whatever it is, you can see this is how those scenes happen where somebody just shoves somebody into the crowd of zombies just so they can get behind the door and shut it.
Yeah.
it's because it protects them.
The trust factor goes out the door. I
Yep.
mean, I'm talking even with family, like
Mhm.
immediate family, and that's the scary part. The problem with all these right now is the lack of education, and I'm not talking about formal education, knowledge and education. The smarter person looks beyond what is just handed to them. Anything that's given to you and just handed and served up to you, always question it. You cannot not question it.
Oh yeah.
And or my government wouldn't lie to me, or they wouldn't do that. Yeah, you know what? Human nature is survival. Okay?
Absolutely.
But it's also very loving. It can be very loving, but it's survival.
Wouldn't tell.
Yeah, go ahead.
You wouldn't tell nobody, like you said. Craig says they push you in front of the zombies to be able to hide behind the door. If we start running low on a food famine, you wouldn't tell nobody, like, yeah, I have 6 months of food stored, because they'll be at your house trying to kill you to eat.
Yeah. Yeah, I told you that. Just any survival situation, something like that, it's good to be prepared. Just don't tell anybody that you're prepared, because first person, if the three of us don't prepare at all, but Tom has been telling us for months that I've got 4 years worth supply of food. I'm stocked here. If something happens,
Jim Baker mac and cheese, boy.
Yeah, that's what I said. So when it comes down to your family's starving, you're like, I know where there is food, and so you're going to go there. Well, now Tom is inundated with this caravan of people that are converging on him, and so now you're faced with a situation. You're like, well, man, I want to let these 3 guys in, but the minute you do that, everybody, then it just becomes a rush, and it's just
12, then 4, then I gotta click, and
now you have nothing.
Reload.
Yeah, and it's just, and now the word's out that this is where the food is, and so now you have that scene where
I gotta have you guys help, protect all the the victuals and all the food and preservatives and all that. I mean, we gotta keep what's ours and not let the raiders take. It's kind of like Walking Dead, pretty much modern day.
Yep.
And Laura, you're right. No one does their own research. They just take. Yeah, that's why YouTube is the biggest news source on the planet, because it's 30 seconds and it's not necessarily news. It's it should be called BS Tube for the most part. But
that was a hypothetical, Lori. I know. I'm not saying that is exact. That was hypotheticals.
We're not coming.
They are not. They are terrible planners. They have no food. If something happens, all that's there is ketchup packets. Everybody.
The road trip.
They only have ketchup packets.
Yeah, all we have is ramen noodles and Chick-fil-A sauce, and that's about
it. That's it. They got the Polynesian sauce and top ramen. It's just not a good combination.
But it gets to the point where I get it, and I get look. Here's the thing, you want, none of us seem to be bad people, I mean, who knows? One of us could be a serial killer. It's probably Carlito. That's why he's at the Golden Corral. But the whole point is, if you get there and you're like, look, I understand you're not going to want to feed me, my wife, and my kids, but I'll tell you what, can you take my kids and just, they don't eat that much. They'll be okay. Just take care of them. It's hard. It really is a hard situation, but this is my point. If the zombie apocalypse comes, it's better to pull a Jim Jones and wipe everybody out that you care about, which you don't want to do, so they don't have to suffer, than suffer. And if you have daughters, you don't want that, man.
Here's the other side of the coin. Have you guys ever watched the movie The Mist?
Yeah.
Mist. Yeah.
Where the guy everybody in the car off themselves right as the military's there burning it off. If they had waited less, I think it's 5 or 10 minutes later, they would have survived. So there's always that thing. It's like, do we do it now? I don't know. Maybe it's like you always have
one more hour.
One more hour. It's like, hold that. It's like you wait until the zombie's bursting right through the door. That's the time to do it.
Yeah. I always told my wife, I said, if I hit the lottery, you'll never know. And she's like, what? I'm your wife. And I'm like, no, you will never know. Money is the root of all evil. Mm-hmm. Okay. And if you let them know, just look at everybody you've ever heard of. They won the lottery and their wife or husband divorced them.
Murdered them,
murdered them, or
Murdered
whatever. Okay, you know, like,
Sued them.
honey, what's that big barrel in the back for? Don't worry about it. You know, so
Why does it have my name on it? No,
yeah,
don't worry.
Seriously. We show up at Tom's house with lye and a shovel, and it's like Tom's like, "Let me get my coat."
Why is there a helicopter
that's
pad
how
in
you
the
can
backyard?
judge people.
Yeah. No, I think that's just one of those things that just comes down to it with a lot of these apocalypse things. Is there's that fear side. I think there's a lot of them. I mean, you can go through history. There's well-known fakes where people, you know, they try to cash in on that insanity, and just there's as many, and those are some of the dangerous ones. Like you said too, where you were talking about the Jim Jones, you have, you know, where is the fine line between, when I was looking here about warning people, and then the people that are doing it for a narcissistic, look at me type thing, where I want everybody to think of me as a seer that sees the stuff. I want to look at it, because you see some of these people that have gone through there's I'm trying to think of the guy's name. I was looking at tonight and I couldn't find it in time. He's fairly modern. He's part of that religious group that they keep updating the prediction because it keeps not. They're like, oh yeah, I didn't calculate that right. I forgot that if I did laundry on Tuesday, that would affect the rotation of the Earth, and because of that, my calculation was off by 5 minutes, and so now the date is 3 months.
Is it Rama?
I'm not sure. I have to look. It was a guy. It was kind of, as I don't want to say they're as bad as the Westboro Baptist Church, but it was one of those like out of the wall, just kind of off the rockers, where it seems like everything. It's like, I've looked through here, I've found it, and because of this, and then when the time comes, they're like, oh yeah, my calculations were off. I was actually off by this because, and they were always changing it, and you could tell after a while these are those people that they're doing it just because they want people they want people to listen to them. They want to come and listen to you, Bob's latest prediction.
That's everything. That's
farming.
Yeah, I mean that's Waco, Texas, Branch Davidians.
Mm-hmm.
That is basically any church or temple, because they do the same shit there. It's just, they let you go home. You really do. Some of them, I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying a majority of them. If I don't go to church, something bad's going to happen to me. And you get so wrapped up in, if I don't start praying, I'm going to have a problem. And it has nothing to do with that. It's, God's everywhere. You don't need, personally, in my opinion, to go to church if you don't need to, because you can communicate directly to the Lord. Lord is everywhere. But you get all these groups, and then what happens is there are people that are so good at looking at human character and knowing when things are going to happen. And people believe in them so much that they become cults. Okay. And then what happens is you always have somebody that knows the real deal. Like, this is a cult, but they're making good money. They've never made money like this in their lives. They're having intercourse with multiple, whatever. Whatever I'm being honest.
I must sleep with your wives in order to find salvation.
But the whole thing is they know, and they just keep you in line, and there's a hierarchy. It's a pyramid, and there's something about the power and the lust, and when people think you're great and they egg you on, I see it with these podcasts. Someone gets a podcast, they do it. Not you, Craig, but you're good. You're good. But, you start getting, you get 5,000 listeners, and then 10,000, your head, and you start believing, you're a legend in your own mind. Yeah. But all you are is becoming an asshole. And I've called a couple people out on that privately. I said, look, you better bring this down, because that bubble's going to pop. And sure as shit, they never did. Bubble popped. And they were like, I don't know what happened. I'm like, well, keep it real. Yes, enjoy the success, but don't live off of that. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I've joked around many times. I've wanted to do it as a joke. Because have you guys ever heard of Frisbeetarianism?
Frisbeetarianism?
Yeah, Frisbeetarianism. It's where you believe that when you die, your soul goes up on the roof and you're stuck there for eternity.
Oh my God.
And so they're like, it's like the joke religions, and I've always wanted to do beardoism.
Beardoism.
Yeah,
You can do it.
Yeah, and so but I've said, but by the thing that stops me the most is in my head I've already got all this cool dogma, like if you ever trim your beard, the trimmings must be kept in a place and they must be sacrificially burned in a ceremony. There's all these things which are just awesome. But the problem is there is going to be somebody on here who's going to be like, oh my God, Headbeard, I worship you. Here is my life savings. And then I will have become the very evil that I seek to mock.
Right.
And that's not what I want to do. But I think it would just be funny as hell. I could see the merchandise like crazy. I could see all this stuff in my head.
Yeah.
But I can't do it because
it's holy oil and beard
yes,
oil.
like I said, you can see the whole ceremony where you must have the holy scissors and you trim them, and they're put in the vessel, and then you have the ceremonial fire where everybody celebrates. I go, you could see it, you could see the whole thing, picture in my head, but I can't do it because it'll be one of those things.
We've got to do it now.
Reincarnate your beard.
Yeah, we should do it right now.
We got to do it now because we put it in the atmosphere. So somebody else is going to come up with your club, and they're going to take that person's
copyright.
Someone's going to bite it.
I'll tell you, when I drive through some of the areas here down, because I'm in like the horse country area, Wellington or whatever it is, I see these properties. I'm like, and I'm looking at them like, wow, that's a good one. That would work. And I start commenting. And if my wife's like, what would work? I'm like, the cult, it would work right here. Or you see these, there's tons of ministries in the state of Florida. I've never seen so many ministries in my life,
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, like Chris lost his volume.
Yeah. He's talking with somebody.
He's yelling to the Lord. Praise the Lord. But this is the point.
Yeah, what did I tell you about my holy scissors? Do not put them in there.
Carlito, get your ass in here. Just go wherever you are at Golden Corral. Go on your phone and just come in, for Christ's sake. There he is. He's eating Chinese food. He's got a little bit of the duck sauce dripping down. Yep. What's up, fellas?
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, is in the head. I mean, I've gone to, because everybody knows you can't utter the word, I call them the L. Ron Hubbardites.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Oh, that is, the story behind that too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell it. Like I said, it's fantastic.
The whole spiel on the darkness.
I mean, here's two writers that have a bet who could start a cult the first. That's basically what they had the bet about. And L. Ron Hubbard crafted it, and he won.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. That's one of the scariest ones out of it. It's all about control.
Yeah.
They watch you. They have private. It's really insane.
And you can see
half of Hollywood's involved in that too. And the money and superiority and just how the highly immortalized it. It's crazy.
And the reason I brought that up is just like what you said. That's the key. It's like they hit on it. You've got to get, you want to get somebody like we start that whole beardoism thing. I get Bryan and Bowden. Well, now he's an ambassador when he goes on TV.
Yep.
And now people see it. And, Tom Kardos, when he's going around and work, he's part of this thing too. Well, now you've got these things that are like, man, I just really like the way you conduct yourself. So what do you, man, I'm part of this beardoist, movement. I really find that, it's a great bonding thing. The brother, it is really amazing. And it keeps growing. And then before long, it's like you said, like Bryan brought up, now you have somebody that now I'm like Muscovy. I am, out there where I've almost raised myself to this deity thing. Yep. And before long, you lose where your grounding was. And that's one of the things. That's why I said I refuse to do it. I was just like, well, I need you to just set it aside. Like, it's like, if somebody does it, it's like, hey, wait a minute, that's us. That was my idea.
I'm sorry, we must sit in council now.
Yeah.
And then we'll discuss.
Yeah, it is, you can see where a lot of these apocalyptic movements, really, really get formed, where they're ones like, you have to do this before the end times. It's like you must cast away these things so you can be prepared. And I think that's one of the dangers of these apocalyptic predictions too is that's what happens is some people just get so far off, through fear that I've got to be prepared. My soul has to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, I know a lot of people that are, average churchgoers don't like this. I really feel the hellfire thing is part of that. I really feel like that was something that was crafted as a fear mechanism to ensure that people remain in the doctrine, because you don't want to do something because you're going to end up, I'm going to go to hell. I can't deviate from this. I'm going to, and I feel that that's one of those things, because we've been through this through many shows on that topic, but this is I think that's where a lot of these apocalyptic ones, it's just, they're able to tap into that primal fear that we have.
Well,
of the thing that we can't control.
Go ahead, Chris.
Once you get into someone's mindset and the fear of desperation kicks in, people will do whatever to keep thriving and moving forward. Like we were talking about earlier, if a zombie apocalypse happened, people are going to do whatever it takes to take care of themselves, to feed their families, or even if it's not a zombie, say it's a worldwide famine. But the truckers stop running, they run out of diesel. There's a worldwide famine. Not to say that there's going to be, but what if there was? People are going to go crazy. Grocery stores are going to go to shit. The shelves are going to get wiped off real quick. There's going to be supreme famine. So, people are going to do whatever they got to do to feed their families.
So most of the general public, most of the people living within a city that are used to city living, metro areas, they're going to have a hardest time because they're not going to know what to do. Yeah. They never planned for any of this, but they're not going to know, how do you grow something? It's really not that. We all went to school. I'm sure we all grew a seed or germinated it. Mm-hmm. You got to go back to your roots. But with everything being electric, that no one's going to be able to look anything up. So it's going to be really tough. Okay. And then you're going to get these people like my kids that just complain, oh God, I want a latte. They're not thinking properly.
It doesn't matter where you're at. Just go. You're close by there. Go to downtown Miami. You know that 99% of the people that are down there are dead.
Yeah.
And some survival issue, they're all dead. That's.
And then the other people are spreading out at this point because they've already, rummaged through whatever the leftovers were there. They're hungry again. Now they're going to come north and go up the peninsula. And if you don't have your pew, you're screwed. But I always say about an apocalypse, right?
Freedom seeds.
Yeah, freedom seeds. Yeah, you need to. That's a great idea, freedom seeds. I've always thought of it as a fight between the good and evil, God and the devil, God and his kid, the devil, right? So a lot of people take that as the Antichrist versus the Christ. Here's the problem: if you subscribe to the doctrine and certain things supposed to take place, and the Antichrist, which I believe is actually alive and right now. And that's hence the ramping up of a lot of things. I really do believe we're in an apocalyptic time for multiple reasons. But here's where it gets really weird. And when people the last 2 years, when they did something, one of the side effects of something is sterilization. The one nation where they force 99.999% of their people to have it or they're done was Israel. Okay? So that, I believe, was predetermined and pre-planned on the part of the bad guys, because if you have the Antichrist and the Christ needs to be reborn again and come back, so it's going to be born again, be it a male or female. What if everybody's sterile and it can't be born again? You don't need to have an apocalypse or the end of the world. You're just going to have one thing taking over everything. This is nothing that was supposed to be born, can't be born, and whatever.
Good point.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into, like you said, the scientific, things where, we have those things. And it's just, that's one of those, because there's always these threats of the latest, greatest superbug that's going to wipe us out. And that's one of those.
It's like kind of like they're really like trying to call God's bluff or his hand. They're really doing it. And this is how I see it. Do you know what's taking place right now in Israel? All these political people, I'm just going to tell you, all the political people, the Pope, all these people from the Vatican all around the world, they're climbing Mount Sinai and going to present their own new 10 commandments. How about a big old to you know who up there?
Yeah.
That's not a good idea.
No.
And the Pope's involved in it.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I hadn't heard anything about that.
Temples,
You go look at it up.
aren't they trying to build their own temples too, to make more than one temple and redo it and all that and make it their own way?
The third temple is, so that was, you know where the Dome of the Rock is? That's where the Muslim side is. So that's where the temple was. It was built twice before. God literally specifically told them exactly square measurements. And once it's built again, that's when the end of the world is. That's when the Messiah comes back and the world, whatever. Here's the thing. In order for that to take place, they need a red heifer. And a red heifer is a cow that's all red, not a spot of any other color but red. Guess what was just delivered to Israel 2 months ago? An all red heifer that was born.
A red heifer.
A red heifer. Go look it up. It's actually in the footnotes of every Bible.
Wow.
And if you really want to get crazy, one of the other signs that was talked about, I think it was Isaiah or Matthew, on a different end, not the Old Testament, New Testament, when the Euphrates River dries up,
say that,
it will release the watchers that were buried there by God. And that's when, what just happened? The Euphrates River is dried up.
It's drying up, yeah. And there's also videos of moaning and groaning of somebody digging up a site on the Euphrates River along it, and you hear what sounds like these demons growling. Yeah. So that's another prediction of the Euphrates River. And the watchers.
I need to see if I can find that video. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. It's wild. You got to find it. You hear chains dragging and all that, and it's wild.
Yeah, because that's one of those things. It's really weird. I mean, you see these ones, because it's out. I know there's droughts, but man, it's like you can tell between where the population centers are. It's like when you can see how water usage is really being, and you really need to tie in to a lot of places. They really need to get on board with desalination plants like ASAP, because there's a lot of, especially down the Southwest. I mean, come on, it's like we between Vegas, Phoenix. You've got millions of people drawing off the Colorado River system. It's like it's not designed for that.
Right.
If you want, I found it on off-grid desert farming.
Go send it to him through a messenger, and then he can pull it up right then and there.
Yeah,
so you can share a screen. But you got to hear the audio on this thing.
I'm putting it in a group chat right now.
Yeah, that'll be even better. I mean, there's. This is the whole thing. So God took the watchers when they created the Nephilim before the flood, and he banished them. He put them under the ground, under the water, and chained them up. This is the background of this thing for the crimes that they've committed. Because it's really interesting when you get into religion and God, be a Judeo-Christian, there always has to be a witness. Have you noticed that? And there's watchers. Why are there watchers? To validate that the Lord said, I'm doing this, you're going to tell everybody I did it. It's very interesting hierarchy. And, it's kind of unnerving. I just say get some religion in your life. I mean, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, so start the video at 22 minutes that I sent in the group chat, Craig. And you'll see it. You can hear it. It's crazy. It shows video as well.
Yeah, I get that. Like I said, I don't think the audio is going to come through.
Well, if you share it on your screen, you'll get the audio. If you press the audio button, make sure it's not muted.
It's just the only thing, like for me, is like I get an echo.
That's fine.
Yeah, see, there's an echo. Yep.
If you want, I can play the audio on my end if you want.
Yeah, so I'll share that for people like here too, because I'm just
right.
I said we'll look at it, but yeah, I'll definitely check that out.
It's pretty wild. but that's been going around like for the last couple weeks. I mean, maybe even the last month, I've been seeing that getting all around a bunch of channels.
But the problem is, a lot of these people, like Paul and Adrian, whatever, that this is where they take advantage of people. They really do. They're using the same tactics that they used for the last 2.5 years to scare the hell out of somebody. And you got to prep now. You got to get it done. Here, go. This is our supply store. You can go to it. Get the preps going right now. And they scared out of their mind. There are a lot of really, older people. They just don't get it. Oh my God, did you see this? You know.
That's crazy how they sucker people to spend their money.
You
must buy this 7 years of supply of food because our water source is going to be contaminated, and you need to get this today. And the ad is $75 a month, and you can afford it to sacrifice not your family.
That's Jim Baker. That's Jim Baker. But they actually these guys are actually they'll try to bring people to Christ and tell them to repent their sins and say this prayer, and if you say this prayer, you're saved. So I'll give it to them for that. But the Jim Baker thing was trying to sell survival food kits for $200, and it's like a big 5-gallon pail of mac and cheese.
Yeah,
yeah. No, it was terrible. It was
and it's just unfortunate, I mean, again, a little bit of research goes a long way.
It's a shame. It's a selfless plug, but I'm going to be doing a show with Joey, and that's one of the ones we're going to actually talk about. We may have to do it in here, but we're going to be talking about Sinister Ministries. So we'll be talking about a lot of these. I've come to the false prophets now. I go because it's just we need to do a show on this one too, because I'm very passionate about that. I mean, I think the best one was those two jokers that were talking about their private plane. That's why God has blessed them with this private plane. How are they supposed to communicate with God when they're flying in a tube full of demons?
Yep.
And so that's why they have to have the same. I mean, can you imagine? I'm sitting there trying to commune with the Lord, and you've got these smelly people coming up and bothering. I said just with the tube full of, and you can see it right there. These guys, there's nothing about. I mean, everybody's seen the viral video. It's like, COVID, I'm, with the breath of God, I get rid of you. And he's over there just blown into the camera. And you're like, and I just shake my head. I'm like, how do people sit in this congregation? I'm like, I don't understand why people are even stay here. I mean, I'd be like, yep, it's time to go.
I'll tell you, the way it works for a lot of people is if you get the right person and you get to know which one's the right person. If someone believes enough, they go along with it, whether they know it or not. And you're healed, it's like whatever you didn't, and then when it fails, you didn't believe enough. You didn't believe, and they'll throw that in there. But sometimes, it's very interesting. Your body can heal itself. It's a fact. It's scientifically been proven. And if by your belief, changing your belief into believing that someone touching your head, you're going to get the baby Jesus in you.
I want Mr. Miyagi to work his heat hands on.
Yeah, do the whole.
That's what I need.
To piggyback off of what you said, I believe that people don't get really sick until they find out they have the terminal disease.
Yeah.
Some people be real. They live their life. They might have a little cough. Okay, cool. They thug it out. But it seems like as soon as they go to the doctor and the doctor says, well, you have this, you have cancer, or you have this. It's like, now I worry about the shit every day. Like, oh, I'm going to die, hey. So it's like you dwindle yourself to death and versus trying to take in remedies that you normally take to try to get better.
When you get good news, you don't get colds, you don't get sick, you're happier. Everything's working better. The minute you find out bad news or you get dumped by some girl or whatever, you get depressed, and then when you're bummed out and you're not really thinking, your immune system lowers, and then you get susceptible to all these diseases and what have you. Something that we do if you want to keep evil away from you folks. This is an iron bracelet right there. You can get it on Etsy. It's pure iron. We'll wear it on the left hand. It's been used throughout time. Exorcists use it. For some reason, when evil wants to get to you, they go through your left side and they go through your left arm.
Damn.
That's why you don't shake hands with people with the left. The right is a healer and the left is a receiver. So it's a giver and a receiver. Think about that.
That's crazy. I mean, that's.
Well, I got that in my beardism class. So
There you go. There you go. Here's the guy I was talking about.
Oh my God.
What the?
Who is he?
Kenneth Copeland. He's one of those things. And that was from the infamous video where he was casting out, getting rid of COVID by blowing the breath of God. Yeah.
Oh, he could blow something, all right, but
yeah, it's just
right there.
Yeah, it's just.
Oh my God.
Yeah, those are the. It was the wind of God. He. Yeah, those are the ones. He was one of the ones that was part of that one where the plane, the tube full of demons, and you see these things, and these are the guys that. For anybody, it's like, well, I thought we were talking about apocalypse. No, these are the guys that actually make these predictions. Now,
right? They do.
These are the modern day,
apocalypse.
What we're going to say, seers who tell you things are coming. This is what you must do. The Antichrist is coming through here. You get, I can't even think of his name now, but he did a lot of stuff. He had several books. He was doing all these predictions about the end of times based off the blood moons. We kept having all those blood moons. And so he was talking about how this is the end of the this last one is going to be the coming. This is, through all his research, this is when God is going to he went through all this stuff. I mean, this is fairly recent, but as you can see, he still hasn't come back. Second coming still hasn't occurred, but he sold a lot of books.
I'll tell you something about the second coming too. This is just my 2 cents. Okay. When Jesus came and, he told you that, not to follow the other crap, whatever, and they killed him. He said he died for your sins. So that means everybody sins. I'm going to die for your sins so you can have a better life. Because no one paid attention to that. When he comes back, I'm pretty sure he's not going to die for your sins, but I'm sure as heck that he's going to be real pissed off that you weren't listening. And that's the difference. Yeah. You got to understand, Jesus is, people say it. I'm not a preacher, but Jesus is love. But if you saw what he did to the money lenders in the marketplace, he's a badass. There's no difference between him and Rambo or whatever else. He'll go in there and kick your ass just as quick. You didn't listen. It's so don't just
John Hagee.
John Hinkie.
Hagee. John Hagee.
Hagee.
Yep, I was just looking it up as you're describing that, and that's who.
That the guy that put out all those different books about the end of times.
Yeah, the thing all around the blood moons, that these blood moons were signs that this is he has done through his research. He's convinced that we are in the end times because of these blood moons, and it's one of those you can see when you listen to him, and that's the part that where you get like a lot of these apocalypse. That's the part that's the crazy is. They are completely believable. I mean, if you were to listen to them, you could find yourself getting sucked in. Like, oh yeah, that does kind of make sense. It's like, yeah, I mean, this is kind of new. It's like, why would we have these things here? And yeah, when you put it with this passage in the Bible, I mean, man, that lines up. I mean, you could find yourself. Well, I guess and I guess he makes some good points, and you can find yourself following along. But then at that point, do you go? All right, he's no, there's nothing here, or do you become a devout follower, and then anybody who doubts it is, well, I'm going to pray for your soul while I'm in paradise and you're languishing in the lakes of fire, and that's where it gets crazy, and that's what's so dangerous about some of these people.
Oh yeah,
that's the thing is too, like when you don't believe what they're saying, you're the enemy. But the way these people work is they get into your head and they feed off your emotions, and that's how they get you to pretty much believe in them as a follower or whatever, as a cult member, and then you'll pretty much do whatever they ask, and that's the scary part. Once you're in their head, they got you in their head. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, what you were saying, like you can believe that. Yeah, well, it's right. I mean, look, and you can kind of start backing up what they're saying from regular evidence because these people are good at what they do, how to manipulate. And the next thing you know, you're selling flowers at an airport and you shave your head. And you get to a certain point where you're so far gone, there's no return. That's why there's a lot of these people that will go rescue your loved ones from these cults. They literally will kidnap you and unbrainwash you. And it takes months to unbrainwash somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
deep down, everybody wants to belong to something.
Yeah.
You know, jokes aside, I mean, we would easily, I could guarantee you, we could find a couple hundred people that would sign on to be beardists.
Oh, 100%.
You know, and we'd have no problem, you know, getting this and actually turning this into something like an actual movement. And it's just, and it's not because, and then that's where you have these things. It's just like, I could easily, just from the research we've done here, Chris made the same thing. You can make those generalized things. We could do into times apocalyptic predictions. It's like, you must, you know, prepare for this. And that's one of those things where through research, I mean, it's just, I don't know who you guys found. It's like, you can see the ones where there's something to it, but you can also see the ones where you could definitely tell they were just strictly, they were trying to jump off, you know, they were just trying to be part of something.
I mean, you know, this is done in other communities too. Like, you know,
see, that's my point. Where do I sign up?
The community. It's done. It's done. Where do I sign up? It's done in the cryptic community. It's done in everything. I mean, I remember once, like, I missed going to my friend's party, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to tell him? Because he was like, he goes, hey, are you okay? And then I just made up a whole UFO story about me and my wife getting abducted. And I went through the whole thing, and I asked him, like, hey man, do you know anybody I could talk to about it? And he was like, I wasn't expecting this. No, I don't. I hope you get. Totally blew him away. But I can, knowing enough research, boots on the ground, and what I know from interviews, I could tell you a story right now and base it on true evidence that maybe it's not my own and make whatever I want up. This is the power that these people have, you know? But, you know, the problem is, like, Austin would just fuck it up because eventually he'd come in like, hey, guys, what's up? What's going on? He's not in on it right now. He's not here. He's like your Canadian beard. You got to send him a text. Dude, remember, when you come, wear the tunic. Like, what? Just wear the tunic.
Yeah. Put the toque on now. Do it.
Yeah. Right now. I'm not worried.
Yeah. I see the next Facebook group coming out, Beardoists, you know?
I know.
Beardoists.
10,000 members in 2 days.
There you go.
He's going to just so we can claim it. All right. I'll work on some artwork. There's going to be parody. I'm going to be putting the word parody in here somewhere because I'm like, this is not. Oh my God.
It's just, you need some kind of symbolism where words start appearing in the beard.
Yeah, you got some. Yeah, you just some symbol. Some symbol is, you know.
Didn't you mess around and have women licking beards? The beard is the sacred object. You must lick the beard to cleanse your tongue.
The upside down thing that symbolizes the beard, you know, that's the hand.
The upside down.
See, I can do it. The ability's there. I just.
You just sit there. You sit there.
Can I lick your beard?
There it is.
Part of the Beardo Club.
3 beards sitting up on top of the pew, and when people come by, it's not communion. It's that they touch the beard. Every beard gets touched.
Yeah, yeah. You're just like, what's going on, brother?
Yes, what's going on?
Instead of kissing the ring, you stroke the beard.
Yes,
yeah. There's none of this, you know. Oh, Holy Father, it's like, oh, blessed beard, where am I to go today?
I better get to work on mine. It's no shave November, so I got to get moving.
That's right.
Oh, there you go. Well, I want to get that whole Viking thing where you kind of like bearded it, you know, you braid it all the way down.
Yeah, well, that's where you just come into, you know, you have the different levels, like the acolyte, you know, it's like, the priesthood is the ones that have the full beards, you know, everybody else is just like the smaller ones. Yeah, yes. No, it's like, oh my God.
Some extensions we've been.
What have I done? What have I done?
I'm gonna do the whole handlebar.
I've released the monster I was trying to control.
The handlebar?
I'm trying to. I just talked to Craig about it the other day.
Earl of Stash.
Yep. I've got enough right here. If I wanted to, all I have to do is just get the thing and I could just curl it up.
I sit there every once in a while. What I do now is just shave a little bit over here and then I just leave it long, so I just get something over here. Problem is, my youngest keep pulling me. Dad, come here.
That sounds like
The one that's gross is the old school way. Was this? You dig in your ear to get the earwax.
Well, you can buy the beardoist wax.
It's
made by beardoist monks in the Himalayas that
only
stand
for $79.95. You can have the beardoism wax, and it will change your life. $79.95.
The secret is you just going to Walmart and buying the candle and melting it down and just stamping the Beardo logo on it. Just having the blessing.
White labeling products, and they're like, why does it smell like the other beard oil?
Yeah.
Oh, he white labeled it.
Oh my God. See, that's how it begins. Like, Chris, appreciate you watching, man. Just that's what brought you in. Hey, welcome, brother.
Yes. This is great.
Welcome, brother Beard.
And now we floss.
Yes.
Yeah, I always dub you the Beard Brothers of like on my Facebook group or something when I'm posting like I'm on live with the Beard Brothers tonight, so I guess it's kind of sticking, isn't it?
Yep. We have a little known Facebook page. That's what this broadcast through is called Beard Bros.
Beard Bros?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's on Facebook. It's one, but it's not one the Beard podcast in it. But yeah, if you actually search up Beard Bros, you'll see it. It's right there, and that's our page that we use for broadcasting through.
That's
and
cool.
So that's I mean, that's basically pretty much the extent that I have. I mean, there wasn't really a whole lot of time to get into every little thing. I mean, it's pretty easy to do the research. I mean, there's everything from AI is going to take over. We're going to to alien visitations. I mean, it's a lot of it. It's like I said, all of us could sit down like a creative writing course and come up with several, predictions. I mean, the likelihood is, I could say that, in 2073, we're all going to be in self-driving vehicles. Nobody will be driving themselves. It sounds like it's probably, there's pretty probable that that's going to be the case. I mean, it'd be easy to do these ones, but it's the ones where, the specifics are the ones that always seem to get my attention, is the people that call the specific, almost to the day.
The fun part of this whole thing is you have the people that are predicting the apocalypse to come. And then the new kind of soothsayers are the guys that say that they're time travelers and they've come back to tell you what their future's like.
Yes.
And to warn you. It's the same crap, except they picked a different end of the spectrum to come, a different angle, I come from 3023 and I'll tell you there's only one nation left. And if you don't do this or you stop buying bananas, you may get to help yourselves in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. What was Bruce Willis's name from the 12 Monkeys? Oh, what was his name?
Yes, I can get that real quick.
12 Monkeys.
That was an excellent movie.
That's pretty much the end of the world. Pretty much starts with a disease brought on an airplane. I
want to say he played James. Was it James Cole? Was that the name of the
Jim Cole?
Yeah, was that the name of the character James Cole?
Something Cole.
Yeah, because then Brad Pitt was in there. He was one of the ones. Yeah.
What's in the box?
Yeah. Oh, that's another great scene. I do that all the time. Every time we get something from Amazon, I come home and I'm like, "What's in the box? What's in the box?"
What's in the box?
7.
Yeah. Chris, you got to watch 7 so you understand what we're talking about. It's a FedEx package. It's right there. It's, spoiler alert. There's something very precious to him inside the box. What's in the box?
What's in the box?
They 12 Monkeys, like you brought up. I mean, in a way, that could be an apocalyptic prediction that's actually fairly true nowadays, because this scenario is incredibly likely now. I mean, when COVID just first releasing those people that were arrested that were trying to take those vials back to China. Mm-hmm. They're from the Harvard research that were actually part of the Chinese military working along with that Harvard. I think it was. I want to say it was Harvard. Hopefully I'm not getting that part wrong. But it's they were working together and they were arrested and they were taking this, but it was supposedly for research, but it was almost straight out of that movie, like 12 Monkeys. I mean, this is just all you'd have to do is just simple release and boom, worldwide.
Or not that long ago, also along the lines, a truck goes out of control and releases lab monkeys in the side of the woods of Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah.
These stories write themselves.
Who didn't immediately, when you saw that headline, think Dustin Hoffman was going to show up on a helicopter from Outbreak? As soon as I Rhesus monkeys, I'm like, we just literally recreated the scene where the little monkey shows up in the little girl's window.
Yep.
I'm like, we just did the movie Outbreak. I'm like, oh my god, yeah, it just. Yeah, that's kind of those things. It's like you can see, Hollywood, we've talked about before, is it predictive programming? I mean, is this something that they're saying in advance? Hey, this kind of, yeah.
Who knows?
Because that's
hiding true events and making it so when they really happen, the public doesn't go haywire,
Or
there's a couple of good movies for people that never seen them. They Live.
They Live is good.
12 Monkeys.
Yeah.
And then if you want to really just have a creep movie, just Kevin Spacey and Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman in Seven.
Yeah.
That was me and my wife's first date, by the way. that was our date movie. We met at the movie theater to watch Seven. So it was like, yep, our first date was a serial killer movie.
That's lucky because that's like you take someone on a date
she's the one.
They're gonna think you're a serial killer. They're gonna think you're weird, but hey, you're still married, so kudos to you, man.
It's one of those. Yeah, she met me there just in case I was like some crazy guy. But I mean, it's like the same thing. We're going to watch a serial killer movie.
That would be good at the engagement party or whatever, and someone brings up a box. Your wife goes, what's in the box?
What's in the box? Yeah. Oh, that would have been the ring. Oh, for the ring.
Yeah.
Brian, you have shamed me into I missed a golden opportunity. That's going to have to be a renewal of vows.
You got to do that.
That has to be part of it.
You know what you also have to do? I think all of you guys should do it. Right above where you guys are sitting right now, just put a picture of Buffalo Bill and a string with a little basket and some.
Oh, I know. I've seen that. I love that. Just looking down, it's just.
Put some lotion in the basket.
I don't know if Chris has seen that movie either.
It does it, or it gets the hose.
Silence of the Lambs. Have you watched Silence of the Lambs?
I'll give you one better than that. My wife has a friend whose son was on Off-Broadway. It was a 2-person play, like, one of these. It was good. And we're walking, and the actress that played the mother comes up and says, how was it? We said, you were fantastic, which she was. And we're walking, she leaves. Okay, I got to go. He goes, you know who that was? And I said, no, that was the actress from the movie, from the play. He goes, no. You ever see Silence of the Lambs? I'm like, yeah. You know the girl in the pit? He goes, that's her. And I'm like, you telling me this now?
Yeah, she's been in movies. She's been in movies before too, like recent movies where she's older now. So yeah.
Well, I mean, but I wasn't putting 2 and 2 together at the point. I mean, I would have done the whole scene there, for her. And she would have been like, I gotta go, bye,
Oh yeah, no.
Hey, what, you got a size 13?
Bum, 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 bum.
Oh yeah, no, oh god, what's the name of that? Something Horses. It's the name of the song that was playing.
Indigata Devita is
that's one of them. Yeah, the other one, like when he's sitting there doing the whole dressing thing, Buffalo Bill there.
He does a tuck and fold downstairs.
That's that. Yeah, there's a song playing. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, that's. I said it's one of those iconic. You just saw as soon as you hear it, you picture Buffalo Bill and the whole wardrobe room as he's sitting there putting on the make. Oh yeah,
it's like when you hear Stuck in the Middle, you see what's his name with the knife from I forgot the name of the damn movie. Reservoir Dogs.
Yep.
Mr. White, Mr. Pink. Why do I gotta be Mr. Pink?
Goodbye Horses. That's the name of the song.
Goodbye Horses. Yep.
Carlito put that up there.
Yep.
Nice.
By Lazarus.
Oh, you have time to put that up in between servings. You could have just come on with yourself.
Well, he was waiting. The plate just got cleared, and you got to go to the chocolate fondue fountain now.
I agree.
Yeah, that's one of those. Can we just say just me? I've always referred to buffets as the public feed trough.
Yes.
And the thing that just absolutely grosses me out is the public, chocolate fountain. Because you just know some kid just got done reaching up there and then decided to stuck his hand right inside the fountain and is sitting here. And mom was like, no. And then you didn't see it. And you're coming over there like, ooh, chocolate, strawberry. And I'm just, I can't do it. I'm not a germaphobe, but I'm just like, I've just seen too many times a kid just sticks his hand in there, and the one attendant who isn't paid enough, it just comes by, slops some more in there, stirs it around real quick, and it's like,
or you bit off
like,
the marshmallow, and then now he wants chocolate. He's like, oh, no chocolate.
So what do you do now, right? This is what you do now. What do you do when you're at a birthday party? They have the candles. Okay, blow it out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm good with the cake.
I never thought. Who didn't think about that until the COVID era? And now you just see everybody just spitting all over the cake.
You know what?
Yeah, everybody had they blessed you with their germs for the birthday.
Yeah.
They made a wish and blessed you with their germs.
I'm not saying it's not hypocrite. There's not a hypocrisy in my my stance. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, yeah. No, there's just
my methodology is I use the urinals in Grand Central Station. I'm good. I think I have enough. Freaking whatever.
I just don't plan on eating in there.
Walking the subway alone. Walking the subways alone gets your immunity up to about 1,000.
Dude, it's just.
I've been there. I know.
It's worse.
Yeah, you go to Wawa. You can eat in that bathroom.
Really?
Oh my God!
I'll tell you what.
QT.
Buc-ee's, Wawa, yeah.
QT is
Buc-ee's is the. You know what?
Shit.
Yeah,
I
Buc-ee. Yeah,
place.
I think that's actually what I meant to say with Buc-ee's. Sorry.
No, Buc-ee's is the brisket.
Oh yeah. You go to Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's, those things. You got an attendant. That's his full-time job is just to clean.
Yeah.
I have literally drove 90 miles an hour on a destination. I see the Buc-ee's sign. Then I set myself back on all the damn time I just made up because I'm in Buc-ee's
right here.
35 minutes. And I'm like, dude, Craig tells you I drive like a bat out of hell.
Yeah. For anybody who's never been to a Buc-ee's, that's one of those things. You have got to make a point to stop there.
You go to Buc-ee's, you got to go in, you get the brisket, you eat it, or the kids are ordering something. Then after you eat it, you're like, oh, I'm going to go look through things. So you find the shirts.
And then you hug Buc-ee and talk to Buc-ee for a minute, and you're like, fuck, I done wasted 45 minutes in Buc-ee.
Have you seen the viral video of the guy that pronounces it intentionally, it's a Busey. I'm going to Busey. Yeah, he's over here. Look, they got a giant inflatable Busey. And it's like, look at this. He's like, here, it's like, oh man, this guy's all hairy. It's a hairy Busey. And I'm like, oh my God. And the whole video, it's just him the double entendre. It just mispronouncing the name.
Busey.
It's just.
You're not Gary.
Gary Busey.
Yeah, but Buc-ee's. Yep. See, it's one of those. You've got if that's one of those destinations. Like if you're ever, for anybody that's not in the area, it's like if you have. I mean, people obviously Texas has been there, but it's
the closest one for you, Tom, would be Florence, South Carolina, off of 95.
Florence. See, we have a place. We have a place called Sheets. I've never had Buc-ee's, but we have Sheets and QT, and they're like immaculate.
Sheets is a really cool place because they cook there too, and they do everything. But Buc-ee's is a totally different animal.
And QT Quick Trip is a small little like a Wawa.
Yeah, this
Buc-ee's
is like
is huge.
This is how Walmart's used to be before they became superstores.
Yep.
It's all geared around convenience and truck stop. But yeah,
yep.
No. So guys, like I said, check them out. Beyond the Realm and Inside the Goblin Universe shows. Watching there, you can also YouTube channel. Like I said, Tom Kardos 1. You can watch them there, but you also go North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project, Encrypted and Paranormal Kingdom with Tom and Carlito, or is it Carlito and Tom? I can't remember which way. Carlito and Tom. Like those on Facebook as well when you're there. Bronxville Paranormal Society, North American Dogman Project, the New York chapter, and the New York State UFO Project. And so get those, support those guys as well, too. And like I said, we're going to get this all lined up so that way we can. I just remembered while I'm doing this, I kicked the producer out of the room. I got to make sure I'm doing this part. he was all hacking over there, and I kicked him out. But yeah, just everybody, just check us out on social media, like, share, subscribe, do all those things. It really helps. We're trying to get there to 1,000 because then YouTube actually takes you seriously once you get to 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Until then, it's kind of like a slow plod trying to get there. But just want to thank everybody for watching. You can go get our merchandise potentially soon. Get your Beardoism gear as much as.
They need to create a shirt that says Beardoism, correct?
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll mention over to Chris to see if he can shoot out some idea because I already have him working on another sticker for us. I'll see if he can maybe do that for us. Get that. So redbubble.com/3beers podcast where you can get the merchandise. Thanks to everybody that's bought the merchandise, and also, for Laura, Harlan, got to the stars. I mean, I just appreciate you guys doing that. That really helps and supports us. We really like that. You can also support the show on a thing that's a monthly basis. You can become a subscriber, 99 cents a month, and you actually be a subscriber. And that helps us pay the bills and get this thing all done. So just thank everybody for doing that too. That's very much appreciated. But everybody, I said, thanks for watching again. We'll be back with the man. This one, that one. He will be here for remote viewing. We're going to be talking about that subject, all on that, and he's going to actually try to see if he can get us rookies to somehow see something that we can't see.
And your audience can take part in it too.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. So I said it's good.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So that's going to be a really good. So we're really looking forward to that one. So, but everybody. Tom, Bryan, thank you so much. We will see you guys on the other side of this intro here. Everybody, thanks again. Good night.